Okay, you ready, Ken?
You betcha.
I'd like to call to order the Thursday, October 20th, 2016 Board of Adjustment meeting. Roll call, please.
Arnold? Here. Dolly?
Here.
Hanson? Absent. Shriver?
Here.
Stonebarger? Here. Stein? Here. McGuire? Here. Albertson and Johnson are absent. We have a quorum. Thank you. Well, Dan, I thought you weren't coming. Dan's the man. Thank you.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is the approval of the September 22nd, the October 6th, and the October 13 minutes. Can I get a motion in a second?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. McGuire, second by Mr. Stonebarger by a nose. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Second item on the agenda is Justin Knight, permit number 17052, is requesting a variance at 205 Compesca Boulevard for a R2A single-family attached or residential district. I believe it is on a deck replacement.
Yeah, thank you. Application was submitted requesting to remove the existing 149.73 square foot, 6.9 foot by 21.7 foot front porch and construct a new non-conforming 154 square foot, 7 by 22 foot porch addition onto the existing single-family dwelling. Said structure proposed to be constructed 12.7 feet from the front east property line where 25-foot setback is required. Basically, Justin's just coming before us and saying this front porch on this thing is really shot terrible. He just wants to tear it off and basically build it back on there. It's a little bit bigger. He's going from 6.9 to 7 feet. He's just rounding out the numbers. You know, to me, it's a no-brainer. There's been nobody's contacted us one way or the other, pro or con. All public notice requirements have been met, and he just wants to replace what's already there with something that's functional.
Thank you, Ken. With that, I'll open the public hearing if anyone's here to speak on behalf or against the variance. Ken, this is already existing there. He's going to use the exact same footprint as what he has now.
Within a couple inches, yep.
Couple inches, and the encroachment is front yard
Already
encroachment?
existing right now, yeah. It's 12.5 feet from front setback versus 25, which is required.
As I always ask, how big is the right-of-way in front of there?
I just have to measure it quick. Well, you know, it's the only, it does two show it on both sides.
Is that one that has a fairly large right-of-way?
It looks like it, yeah.
So he's got a large boulevard there, too. He's really quite a distance from the curb. Not that it applies, but it's something we always kind of take into consideration as far as the actual...
Yeah, it's an 80-foot right away.
Yeah, versus what normally would be, if we had a 66-foot right-of-way and the lots were adjusted, in that means he would be well within his setback?
Correct.
Okay. Anyone to speak in the open for or against? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, ask for a motion and a second for discussion. Motion by Mr. Stein, second by Mr. McGuire. Any other discussion? Anyone have any questions, concerns? Seeing none, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3, Tim Waba, permit number 17043, requesting a variance relief in regard to an unattached garage at 19 15th Street Southeast.
Correct. Application was submitted by Mr. Waba to request and construct a non-conforming 1,428 square foot, 34 by 42 unattached garage on a 9,669.5 square foot parcel. Said structure proposed to be constructed on a parcel that allows for a maximum of 1,257 square feet of attached garage. Currently, this is a compliant R2A zone parcel consisting of a legally non-compliant single-family structure with a single-stall 14 by 24 garage. This property has like a 20-foot utility easement on this side, but what Mr. Waba is wanting to do is build a garage over here. He'll meet all the required setback requirements. He currently has a race car and a trailer that he stores over here adjacent to this property. He owns this house here, and he had bought this one for a rental property, but he intends to store his equipment inside that garage on the other side. He's basically going to be about 170 square feet larger than it allowed. There's no side yard setbacks. It's just the size of the garage related to the garage. Lot size is what is variancing request.
Thank you. With that, I'll open the public hearing if anyone's here to speak on behalf or against the variance.
And we received no contacts pro or con to the issue.
And Ken, just for a backdrop on this is, every size, when we used to have one shoe fit all on this. Years back, we went and said, there's different size lots out there, and different size lots can handle different size footprints of accessory structures. And I was talking to Jason about this a little bit today when he drove by there. I said we kind of put a number on a paper and said, this should be right. There was no scientific evidence. Our goal was to make sure we didn't encroach on neighbors, that we had enough air movement, sunlight. We weren't overbuilding on a lot, but it wasn't necessarily scientific. We just came up with a number, and we said that's why the Board of Adjustment is here to look at the individual ones. This particular one has only a half street in front of it, I see.
Yeah, condition upon approval, if granted, would be a waiver of right to protest for the street and stuff. In fact, I was actually going to ask Shane, there's a sidewalk that goes along the east property line, nothing along the south property line yet, except for his, but would you rather wait with the sidewalk and put that on the waiver right to protest so it's built with the street curb height instead of just being thrown out there? Yeah, which he says yes, he would if it is approved. Can you throw the overhead on for a second?
When we look at the neighbor where this garage is going to be, the neighbor's house faces the other direction, it looks, so it's not like someone's looking out their kitchen window and 6 feet from a detached garage.
He'll still be 16 feet from the north property line and 20 foot because of that setback from the east property line, so.
Is this project already under construction?
He has built a slab, well knowing that the slab is not, the permit that he's already got to build a slab does not include, it is only for a garage that he can legally fit on the lot right now. So if it's not passed, he'll end up with a garage and an apron. If it is passed, then he gets to use the whole thing.
Yeah, I drove by there today, and it doesn't look like it's really going to cause a water problem with the neighbors and stuff like that. And I think that's another thing that people worry about. But it's far enough away from the neighbor to the west of him, and with the roof line and so forth, and drainage, and that I think it's conducive to the neighborhood over there because it's kind of a mixed-use neighborhood where there's duplexes and there's big garages and there's big houses on small lots. So it's kind of a lot of mix and match over there.
Anyone to speak in the open up before I close the open? Seeing none, I'll close the open. I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion and a second for discussion. Motion by Mr. Stonebarger.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Arnold. Any other discussion? I do think we look, when we have these, when we have the footprint, and we have the square footage, and the lot falls into that category, I still think, to us, from our due diligence standpoint, I think we looked at it, and we took a look at the special use of that area and the size of the lot, the adjacent buildings that are around it, that it's not encroaching in setbacks, it's not encroaching in view and vision of the neighbors, and he is one of the adjacent neighbors himself, so that's my thought on it. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4 is Dennis and Rosemary Murphy, permit number 17055. Is appealing requesting for a variance in regard to a carport addition in the R1 Single Family District at 305 18th Street Northeast.
Correct. Mr. Murphy has come made application, was submitted requesting to construct a non-conforming 264 square foot, 11 by 24, open-sided carport onto an existing compliant single-family dwelling. Said structure proposed to be constructed 4.5 feet from the side north property line where a 9-foot minimum setback is required. Currently, this is a compliant R1 zone parcel consisting of compliant primary structure, single-family dwelling with one compliantly placed lawn shed. Again, Mr. Murphy's request is to cover this north side of his structure here, where he is currently parking a van right now, so it will be open-sided. We have received numerous contacts from the adjacent neighbors,
Pro or con?
all pro. We've had contact with 5 adjacent neighbors, and they all support his request.
Thank you. With that, I'll open the public hearing if anyone's here to speak on behalf or against the variance. Ken, this is kind of an interesting one because we've come through with our storage ordinance where we say we don't want stuff on the street. We want everything beside the house. First question I ask is this on the right side of the house? We've said that you can only store on certain sides of your house.
Correct.
So
You're
it is,
supposed to be on the garage side.
so
of
it
the
is
house.
compliant on the garage side,
That's correct. Yep.
the overhang. And it's interesting that we've seen an uptick in garage variances, storage variances, as people are trying to get things put where we've asked them to put them, correct?
And they are trying to get more of this stuff concealed and out of the general open public, so.
I don't know about anybody else, but I have driven over the last year around the parts of the town we had issues with, and they seem to have taken care of themselves. I think there is a sense of people understand that we're asking them to move this stuff, and now we run into the downside of that is there's not always enough room in the side yards to put what we've asked them to put there.
But that's not without some due diligence from Mr. Christensen and Mr. Justin.
So you've made some enemies?
No.
Oh, okay.
Ken, what's the deal with the, as notated here, the permit history, the 2010 unlawful 224 square foot addition?
It just means that apparently that might have been built without a permit. We just didn't have a record of it, so.
So it was unlawful because they built it without a permit, or it's unlawful because of the structure or the?
Is
No,
it-
it's just unlawful because it was built without a permit.
Is the applicant here? Mr. Murphy here?
Yes,
We
he
could
is.
I think we should ask him that. When I went out and looked at this, I talked to Dennis. On the permit part,
State your name for the record, please.
Dennis Murphy.
Mark had a question on the permit. I think there's a 3-season room. There had been something there before the 3-season room.
Yes. There's a deck there.
And you just
Two
took it out and
Yeah.
you had a question for Mark on the,
No, you don't see that very often where it comes up unlawful addition.
probably a deck there that you enclosed and didn't realize you needed a permit to do that?
Oh, I thought, no, I didn't.
Okay. That was the
So I'm
question
back
Mark
here
had.
Now, I found out later, yeah. So that's why I'm dotting my i's and crossing my t's.
You've gotten much better at it.
Thank you.
Carport on the side, it'll be open on all 3 sides.
That's
It's
correct.
just, as it said in your letter, you're just using it to store a vehicle under there so you don't have
Right,
to,
it won't fit in my garage with my ladders and planks on it.
and that way.
Tired of chipping the snow and ice off it every time I need them.
And I think we'd much rather have it in the side yard than on the street
And my
or
neighbor
in the
to the
driveway.
north, there's no windows on that side of his house.
So, yeah, I guess you look at that, we can double check that to make sure that when we move that direction, we're not encroaching from a view on the neighbor's side. There's no windows, that's not a kitchen or anything like that
Right.
or a living room. Okay. Anyone else to speak in the public hearing, or anyone have a question for Mr. Murphy? With that, I'll close the public hearing, ask for a motion and a second for discussion. A motion by Mr. Arnold. Who was the second from? By Mr. Albertson. Ken, I have one question just before we vote on it. How close, and I think there was an error on this one, it's 4.5 feet from the lot line, not the 3.5 feet that someone had thought we might have had in there. Do we show four? It's 4.5.
4.5.
Oh, 4.5.
Yep.
How close can a storage shed be to the lot
4
line?
foot.
How big can a storage shed be?
200 square feet,
How tall?
12 foot.
He arguably could put a storage shed there and pull into it.
A 10 by 20, yeah.
Yeah.
Might not get your doors open, but you could probably do
But I
that,
mean,
yeah.
but how wide is this,
Maybe 11.
how wide is this carport, 11 feet?
11.
So almost the size of a building, and I'd much rather have a three-sided open carport than one of these monster sheds we see out there. 200 square feet. Which fairly is, this size or bigger, and this is more aesthetically pleasing to the neighborhood than a large storage shed, so. All right, just my opinion anyway. Any other questions? Any discussion? With that, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5. Kevin and Stacy Neiman, doing business as KSN Properties. Permit number 17054 is requesting to construct a non-conforming garage onto a non-conforming single-family dwelling at 401 2nd Street Southeast.
Yes, again, the Neiman's made application was submitted requesting to remove a 240 square foot 10 by 20 garage and construct a new non-conforming 432 square foot garage, 18 by 24 feet onto the existing non-conforming single-family dwelling. Said structure proposed to be constructed 3.6 feet from the side west property line where 6-foot setback is required, and 12 feet from the front north property line where 25 foot is required. Currently, this is a substandard R2A zone parcel consisting of a non-compliant primary structure, single-family dwelling with attached garage, single-stall garage, and an unpermitted accessory building. And that was way before these people ever bought it or got hold of it, so. There's an 18-wide concrete boulevard access allowing for one legal inside parking space and one legal outside parking space next to the west property, and however, the 16-foot long driveway is currently unimproved. There is a single stall garage here, and it is in very poor condition. It really serves no purpose other than to be just kind of an attached shed on the property. The applicant is looking then to actually remove this structure off, build in line with the front of the house, and then within 3.6 feet of the side property line to give it a 18-foot width. And then it'll go back. Actually, and I haven't talked to about this, but would you have any problem? Why don't you come up here?
Kevin Neiman.
If they do approval on this, this has only got a 6-foot side yard. 6-foot side here is the posted side yards, 25-foot front to front. And he's requested to build in line with here, then go back 24 feet. If this is something that you decide to approval, I was also wondering maybe, Kevin, if you'd be willing to maybe go closer to the south property line and keep a little bit more space here to allow parking that wouldn't fall between the building and the sidewalk?
Well, it's hard to say. I guess the price-wise would be a little different, I guess, because your roof line and all that
So,
would get changed if you push it back. So,
anyway, that's just a point. Of course, there's public notice, and we've received no pro or con comments from anyone with regard to this matter, so.
Thank you. With that, I'll open the public hearing if anyone's here to speak on behalf or against the variance. Question, you said, Ken, on 24 feet, the building that's there, the diagram from the, it will be set back even with the rear roof line?
It'll line up with the rear roof line, yep.
When you were saying it would, I think what you were getting at is what we try to do is make sure that when a vehicle parks there, that it doesn't overhang the sidewalk. That's against
Yep.
the law.
It doesn't always work that way, but it's an attempt.
And in this case, when you look at it, you can judge whether or not it can be moved back without
Yep.
the customer or the property owner incurring any undue expense, additional
This is just
expense.
FYI for the owner that if somebody parks here and they are across the sidewalk, if we grant this to be built like that, that doesn't variance them from parking across the sidewalk. The police can still go by and give them a ticket. I mean, that's their option, not ours, and it's, you know, but
The width of the building in the picture there, how much wider is the new building going to be from? There's
Well,
two things there. It
it's
looks like there's
proposed-
a building. What's next to it? What's that white?
That's all gone. That was an old dog.
It was a kennel of some sort
Yeah,
there.
I got that out of there.
So the building is what we see there, the roof of that building.
Yep, right there.
The new building will be how much wider than that?
About 6 feet.
this is 12 and the new is proposed to be 18, so.
And the deal is in that old, what you don't see in there is the stairway going down in the basement. So that's why I need to go further out. Because there's 4 foot of stairway going down in the basement underneath that roof.
Say that again, so can you point out where,
Yeah, he's saying right now, there's a stairway inside, once you get inside the garage.
in the garage? 'Cause
It parallels that west wall of the house where they have to go down the steps to get into the
okay,
basement.
John had a question on the width. When you said a single stall garage for one vehicle, his question earlier was, why do we need to be that wide? This might be the answer to that.
Okay. Yeah.
That's why. Because the stairway's in there, you don't see that from here, otherwise it wouldn't work. Right now, there's like a little golf cart door there that's very well working.
So the question we'd ask is by granting a 17-foot width there, that's the minimum allowable you will need to get one car in there and be able to function with that car in there,
Get out, yeah.
because of the 4-foot
18 is
stairway
the
in.
request.
Okay, but it's due to the stairwell inside that building that's requiring that to be what we would look at as a 1.5 stall, but it's really still functioning as a one stall or
We should've
one
had
vehicle
that road
garage.
in there, I guess.
Yep.
Darwin did that, but.
Is anybody, any comments from the neighbors, or?
Nope, nobody's contacted. I think anybody seeing any improvement here is gonna be totally in support of anything we do.
It's always one of those where you look and go, hey, while I'm doing
Something always
it,
gonna be an
I
improvement.
need to make
period.
it more functional and bring it up to date, and at the same time, it's an eyesore to the neighborhood, so. Anyone else have anything in the open before I close the public hearing? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, ask for a motion and a second for discussion. Motion by Mr. McGuire,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Arnold. Any other discussion? Any concerns? Seeing none, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Old business, Ken, can I bring up one thing from the last meeting? When we approved a hair salon, we approved a beer, wine, tavern, conditional use for a hair salon. And one of the questions we had was, we'd like to see something in the ordinance that prevents the sale of the property, the transfer of the property, because we said we've approved that location for alcohol, but the actual, how it's going to be used, our concern was it could go from a hair salon to a full-blown bar with a liquor license and be open till 2 in the morning. So we asked that, is there a stop loss we could put in there somehow? When I talked to Ken, he said, what did you guys do? It's impossible for us to track this. Can you allude on that a little bit?
Yeah, actually, because the way you guys put it in there, you said use or change of ownership. I mean, we may never know if there's a change of ownership to verify that. And right now, you're gonna have a change of use every time something goes in there. It's nothing, and they're gonna build something in there. That's a change.
When
of
you
use.
say we, you mean the building department.
Building Services Department is who I'm talking
But
about.
the city will know, because when that happens, they still have to go to the city
Yeah,
council.
your check and balance on this thing is anytime a liquor license transfers across, it's gonna have to go to the city council and have 2 readings and everything else. So there's gonna be plenty of time for anybody having an issue or an input to go and speak to the city council and ask for that to be yes, no, or maybe. Other than that, our task here was just to say, okay, there's a piece of dirt on the ground there, and does that piece of dirt qualify for a liquor license? Do we see any within 300 feet of a school or church or whatever the case may be? And it's just to say, yep, that dirt qualifies, and then it's the task of the city council to take it to the next step and make sure that it's meeting all the public and.
So we had some residents that said our fear is that you've approved it for one type of usage now, and in that spectrum is another kind of usage that we wouldn't be comfortable with. You're telling us that, don't worry about it, the city council, when that happens, the city council should be able to bird dog the fact that it went from a hair salon to a bar.
Absolutely.
So,
And that's their task.
and we don't want to double up. We don't want to put an ordinance on top of another ordinance. So
Well, and the bad part is there is no real trigger for us to find out when it happens to bring it back to you. You know, so
From
all
the-
of a sudden, if it happens 6 months or years later, and then we walk in the door and say, oh, this is a different user, this is a different owner.
from the building department,
Yeah,
it's
and then it's
already,
already- yeah, then
it's
it's
already
already
being
been there a
it's
year.
already being handled in another side of
Correct.
the.
So it's a really,
You guys comfortable with just leaving that as it is? We didn't realize that there was another trigger in there that would prevent something from happening there. I mean, we knew it, but, we'll have to put our full faith and trust in the council that they'll realize that it's too big. And if it is too big of a change, then they would send it back to us
yes,
to look
and they
at
have, and they have, yep.
it. Okay, anything else in old business? Can I get a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. Dolly, second by Mr. Stein. All in
Wait,
favor,
wait, wait.
say.
So are we gonna modify that ruling from the last time? Or are we just gonna leave it on the books that way?
Well,
Or
it was,
that
it was,
a
it was
request
just
from you?
it was just a request after the fact in
Okay.
the open, so. But,
It
so you can
wasn't-
take that off your long list of things. It wasn't part of the
All right,
motion or anything.
okay, very good.
Can I get a motion to, I have a motion to adjourn. I need a vote. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carries. We have SignCode Board of Appeals. When you're ready for that, let me know.
Did we get that on here? Probably not, huh? Did we get the signboard one on here? That's all right, I'll get it. All right. Roll call, I guess, for that one, huh?
What's that?
You do roll call again?
Oh, yeah. I'd like to call to order the Watertown SignCode Board of Appeals for Thursday, October 20th, 2016. Roll call, please.
Arnold? Dolly?
Here.
Shriver?
Here.
Stonebarger? Here. Stein?
Here.
Albertson? McGuire, there you are. You put the notes together, I'm sorry. And then let's show Hanson and Johnson is absent, please. And I guess actually Mr. Johnston has resigned from the board, if that wasn't known yet.
And I've got a couple of replacements that I was going to call and talk to about. I haven't had a chance yet. First
I'll-
item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from June 23rd, 2016. Can I get a motion in a second? Motion by Mr. Stonebarger, second by Mr. Stein. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carries. Second item on the agenda is Family Cosmetics and Implant Dentistry. Appeals the following requirements for SignCode Ordinance as it applies to the property at 2300 9th Avenue Southeast.
Great. Yeah, as stated, they are applying for a third billboard sign. The history on this is a little bit is that in April 4th, 2007, a variance for a number of, or a third freestanding sign was requested and denied at that time. Applicant now requests to add a third freestanding sign that's proposed to go on this parcel right here. This was really difficult to try to write everything out that happened on this, so I'm gonna have to try to just show you and explain a little bit. Can I have the overhead, please? So previously, when this came through the board, this was set up as a condo plat. So you had one parcel of property that was the whole thing, and then you had your 3 interior lots for the separate buildings. And at that time, this property was allowed by definition under the Board of Adjustment 2 signs for the size of the parcel of this property. Like I said, they did come and request a third at that time, and it was denied because it failed to show hardship. So currently now, let's go back to the other one for a minute, Ray, please. They have since, again, restructured the property, and it's kind of, see if I can touch them off one at a time here. So now, third parcel here, he has 14 foot of access to the road. He's actually got the east half of the west half of the driveway. This parcel, let me move this over a little bit. This parcel, well, actually, this parcel and this parcel are all aimed by the same party, but now there's still 3 separate parties. So So we have no sign on this property, you got two signs on this property, but it doesn't have enough frontage to occupy two signs. And then you have this parcel left that has probably about, what did I say here? I actually have it calculated out. 227 foot of frontage on one side and 57 foot of frontage on the other side with no sign. So basically, they're back before us requesting for that third sign to go in there. Their proposal had came forward with a, I gotta make you go back overhead again, sorry. This was the original, when they came to us, was the proposed sign that they'd wished to put on there. A picture. Right now, this is what the property is, that you have the existing sign here, and of course, the third one is proposed to go here. I wasn't able to find the old permits. My secretary's gone, the person that does all my digging for me. But I've estimated this one here to be about 70 square feet, and I think this one about 81 square feet for the actual sign itself. And then they also came back to me, and of course, they were asking for this one, and this one would have been like 96 square feet proposed. Under the way we qualify the signage, we measure the top part, but we really don't take into account the pillar in that case because of it was a single pole sign. And now they've modified that request for this sign. Can you back out just a little bit? And this one is roughly about 300 square feet. I got 318, but that was taken like a foot less, and it probably would fall into the 300 square foot, which is the maximum size allowed for a sign in the C3 zone district. Is either 2 square feet for each 1 linear foot of frontage, or a maximum of 300 square feet. I have not heard from any of the adjacent neighbors, pro or con. Nobody else has contacted us on this issue, so I'm here to answer any questions, and it's kind of weird.
Ken, can you go back to that one of your previous pictures where you had all the signs on there?
Sure.
And I'll also open the public hearing if anyone's here to speak on behalf or against the sign permit. John, you've kind of been in, currently, the history of the SignCode Ordinance, so we worked on it for many years, put it in place, and it's currently being reevaluated a little bit. I know John's been well in, neck deep into that one. Some of the discussion as to what's working on the SignCode Ordinance, what's not, and what's around the corner, especially with the Highway 212 project.
As Highway 212 gets reconstructed, we're reviewing the SignCode Ordinance to see what works, what doesn't work. The size of this property would allow to have 2 signs, and it came back, I think it was 2007, and was turned down for the third sign. I don't know what has changed or what type of hardship or whatever you could come up with to talk us into the third sign.
How far from the closest sign, which is the brown one, I can't read that, what it says, but what is the distance between the proposed new sign location and the closest sign to it?
Can you fall back to that screen and Ray for a minute? I could measure it quick.
The other question I have too, and John can probably tell what the answer to that, and so can Ken, is,
Be about 85 feet from that last sign to the west to the next new one.
and this is on a corner lot too. I know
That's why.
we were talking more so on 212, 81, things like that, but I know there was a discussion at a sign meeting that I was at that was extremely important as to how those signs were placed on those lots.
In relation to the existing 2 signs, how far are those apart?
The existing 2, I can tell you real quick here. They're about 52 feet apart.
Okay, and this Embrace Dentistry is a whole new business altogether. Embrace Dentistry, the proposed sign.
That's correct. I'm Ryan Deedy, first of all. Yeah, so actually, I'm just trying to get up to speed here, too. In talking to Dr. Prouty, because I wasn't with the organization back when it started, the 3 buildings were put there, and I asked why it's laid out the way it is today with all of the goofy boundaries, and Brian says that there is no definitive reason for that. He does know that it was set up so that all three buildings do pay separate taxes on that. So, I mean, it really comes down to, you know, like what the frontage and what we can do. And I think Ken just pointed out that the third sign over there is not, I mean, technically it's apparently if with that middle building there, but that's for the chiropractic clinic, not for us. And they're two separate, completely separate entities right now too. Dr. Prouty runs them completely separate from the middle building to the other building. So we have no front or no signage at all for Family Cosmetic, which is now going to be Embrace Dentistry.
Ryan, did you say that middle sign is not yours?
No, the middle sign here that you see, the implant.
I can't read it.
The implant dentistry, the tan one.
Yeah.
You can see that one, that is for.
Oh, there.
So
Oh,
the
I can
top
see.
part is for us.
Oh, the chiropractic one on the left.
The farther one, yeah.
I see.
In white, that is.
Yeah.
That's for the chiropractor down there, Dr. Dingser. And then obviously half of that sign is actually just, I mean, it is our building. It's rented out right now by the advanced hearing people.
Well, the way the ordinance reads, you're allowed two signs on this property because you have 447 foot of frontage, and you may have to combine those signs to have two businesses advertised on one sign.
Okay.
Ken, can you explain how that works when we talk frontage? You know, when you look at that, when I'm looking at this one here, legally, that far lot, you know, it just doesn't make sense to me. Not that page, I'll tell you when you keep flipping.
I got one of them. Here we go. That's the one I want.
Yeah, what's odd with that is where you see the one that owns half of the driveway,
Yeah.
his frontage is about 9 feet, 14 feet.
Yeah, it's 14 feet on the street side, and
And what happens is,
we have our parking lot in the back, and I don't know why it's so.
what happens is when we developed, and John, you can explain, when we developed frontage, it was, the intent and spirit of it was the frontage of the property. And when you look and go, this one's been cut down into 3 pieces, you know, it wasn't designed that every frontage gets a sign, and if everybody has 14 feet of frontage, you can put all the signs there. You follow me on that? It's just because you have frontage doesn't mean you get a sign.
Just to explain those numbers,
You
the
know.
14 feet is the frontage there, then on the top side, 28 is allowable based on the two square foot per frontage foot.
You get a 28-foot sign.
Yeah, so the next one's 148, and he's allowed 296 by that lot size now. And the other one, of course, is 57 on that side, be 114, but he's also got 227 lineal feet along the other side that could be combined into that when you have a corner lot.
But part of the corner lot thing is we weren't going to allow someone to take the signage from that street and put it on the other street. They were in the group that was reviewing it, city council, staff, and some of the plan commission they're very insistent that we can't piggyback signs on other frontages just because, you know, if you've got 300 feet on one front, you can't use it on the other front. It has to be used on that front. But in a case like this, where let's say you have 3 separate property owners, in the SignCode Ordinance, we could say, okay, everybody gets a sign, you get 14 square feet. True or false?
True.
Or if the group wants to combine all of their frontage, they could say 2 signs then?
Well, yeah, that's why the original one in 2007, that's what it was allowed at that time. They were allowed 2 signs for the total frontage of the parcel at that time.
And the way this property was split is just so tough that if a person bought that one with 14 feet of frontage, there's no guarantee you'd get a sign at all. And who owns that one?
Dr. Dingser.
The chiropractor.
Yeah.
Where's his sign? Is it on his property?
No, you can see it on that shadow there, but it's the Watertown chiropractor.
So
sign.
interestingly, his sign isn't on his property.
No,
Correct.
no. His sign
And
is
he
right
has no parking in the front either, based on that. So,
So Ryan, does he own that one building, the chiropractor?
yeah, he owns that out. That's his. Yeah.
So
It's completely separate from.
that's
Dr. Prouty.
been separated off from the lot
Yes,
originally,
correct.
at one point.
So we
Well,
can't
it-
stop people from selling off property in non-conforming sizes. The state statute says they can sell it off for 1 foot square chunks if they want. But the only thing it does do to them is it does,
Kind of a due diligence thing to go, hey, you can split and plat it any way you want, but you might not be within the
you know,
ordinance
your building
to
rights
park
and stuff
there
might
or
be
put a
going
sign up.
away, so.
Interesting.
And these two buildings are actually connected, so this is actually one building. It's tough to do when you're looking up there and trying to do it here.
You know, I can look at this a couple of different ways. You know, what's our goal and our purpose in Watertown? And certainly, we want to respect the work and the thoughts and everything that's gone into the sign ordinance and not go against that in the city council. And there was reasons for that, but here we've got a corner lot. We've got a lot of frontage if you consider that corner lot. I know, Pat, you talked about how that was considered originally. But we also sit here today and we want Watertown to prosper and grow, and we want to see businesses in Watertown. We want to see them advertised. We want to bring people into Watertown. They come to get their teeth fixed. They're going to go someplace else and spend some money. I think that's important. I think if there's any way to help promote businesses in Watertown, we need to do it. And,
We do have one person here from the audience to speak on this matter, too.
Okay. You can come up and state your name and speak at any point. Ken, what's the total square footage of signage that a frontage, not the number of signs, but the total square footage that we've calculated that is allowable for this frontage?
Well, for this frontage, again, this is a C3 zone, so they can have one for each business with up to 200 square feet of frontage, and 200 to 400 feet frontage is allowed one additional sign. So the original way it was done, they were allowed those 2 signs.
Do we
And
limit this
based on the
total square
frontage-
footage?
And well, based on the total frontage, then both of those signs could have been up to 300 square feet.
So 600 square feet
And
of
how big
total
Then they have a
signage.
maximum of 1,000 square footage of signage that they can use on all building structures and signs at that time.
Includes signs, but freestanding signs, we would say that frontage with 2 signs could have a maximum of 600 square feet.
Correct.
Okay. How many
no,
square feet?
what'd you
do
just
they-
say? You said 1,000.
Well, the
That-
total signage for the whole property
This-
is limited to 1,000, so.
That
They're limited to
includes-
1,000.
That includes
okay.
the signage
So
on the
if they
building
have-
where they have their name
If they
too.
have 600 up there, now they got 400 left to put around the buildings or whatever, and over the doors or along.
So
the
they can
side.
have 400, and what are they asking for today? 300.
No, they could have 600
They can have
freestanding.
600.
Freestanding signs could be 600 total, maximum of 2
I
signs.
guess I'm confused. You just said 1,000.
That includes the building. If your name
That's
on the
all
building, your marquee and all of
Is
that.
there signage on the buildings too?
Yeah, they got signs over the doors in the front and stuff, yeah.
Sorry, it's just letters. It just says Family Cosmetic Implant Dentistry.
I'm sorry, Ryan, what is it on the building?
Just letters, just says Family Cosmetic Implant Dentistry, which at some point will come down because we've changed the name.
When the ordinance came in,
So that would come down.
That would come down, yeah.
there
But
was,
I
Okay.
doubt what they have right now on the building probably would exceed 200 square feet more of signage on all 3 structures together combined. So, if they got 200 there and they still have 600 there, they still got 200 square feet to play with to put on the buildings if they wanted.
how many square feet are on the 2 signs right now? Did you have calculate
Well,
that?
like I said, I couldn't find the original permits. I did scale them off and estimated. I think that, I believe this one, I believe that one to be around 70 square feet, and I believe that one to be around 81 square feet.
And they have 600 available
And they have 600.
for freestanding signs?
Correct. Well, it's based on the original plat frontage, and based on today's frontage, and that's why we're back down to this other scenario, so that's why.
Sounds like we're really splitting hairs here.
Well, and, yeah, so you're just gonna have to fall back to general principle of what you're trying to do.
Okay,
because-
so again, just to try and clarify this, if this property had been platted, I'm gonna use this for lack of a better word, normally, with each business having the equal amount of frontage, would there be any issue with granting this permit?
There was 200 square feet on the frontage, so if you divided that by 3, what do you get? 70, 65?
Per 65 square feet.
65 foot of frontage is what it'd be if you divided
Okay.
by 3, just say?
Sure.
Double that, so each one of them would have been available for 125 feet.
So if it was,
If you're only counting the frontage on one side.
if it was sliced 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, we would allow 3 signs, one for each business.
Correct.
And they're proposing a sign that's less than 125 square feet.
No. They're proposing this sign,
Right. What's the square footage of that, the way you count it?
approximately 300.
So that one's 300 and the other two are 70,
The
one
original
one
they
is
came to us
70?
with- The original one they came to us with was this one, and this was approximately 196 square feet. And then now they want to modify that and go with this one, which is approximately
Yeah,
300.
the
square
reason
feet.
we modified that is to make it look better. We want to match the building. We want to, we're not going to put up a sign that that looks bad, obviously. So we just wanted to match what we had on the building and the structure and the stucco. And so we came up with that. That first one was kind of a, just a sketch.
Well, if that sign is 300 and the other two put together are 150, and if you take the signs off the building, aren't we in compliance?
You would
No,
have to take the
because
signs
you
off
would
the building.
have.
He said,
three
he just
signs,
said,
but you only
he
allow-
just said he was.
I'd say
And it was, but you wouldn't have to, I'm saying.
compliant by square footage, but not compliant by number of signs.
Correct.
Would be that if we're, because I think what Dennis is getting at is the spirit and intent of total square footage of signage. We're well within that, but we're a little over on the number of signs.
You could put 2 signs on one pole and you'd be in compliance.
May I comment on that, the 2 signs? My name is Brittany Chapin, by the way. The reason we were hoping to have 3 separate signs instead of 2 signs on one, like you're mentioning, the difference between the Embrace and the other sign that's on there, the one that's the Implant Sedation Dentistry, the reason we're hoping to keep those 2 separate ones is we've had customers that come to us. The point of the implant and sedation is those are actually customers that go completely under sedation, and they don't know much what's happening when they get their dental work done. What we're finding is those people are really scared to death of dentists. They don't want to come to a dentist. They're horrified. They've gone with pain for 20 years. They don't want to come to a regular dentist. So by us having that associated with our regular dentistry, we're finding that they're not coming. And then when they do find out, hey, this is actually separate, they're like, I wish I would have known that a long time ago, that this is a completely separate experience. It's not a normal dentist's office. So that's why we're hoping to have 2 separate signs that way.
So Ken, can we go back and see where they wanted their placement? If we were to split this lot conventionally in a third, a third, a third, these signs would be probably evenly spaced across the frontages.
Well, according to our ordinance, they just have to have 50 feet of separation, what they currently own.
But I mean, in a perfect world,
Yeah,
if they
in a
would
perfect
split it
world, yeah.
perfectly, a third, a third, a third, are the signs going to be a third, a third, a third? Or are they going to be closer to each other than that?
No, as proposed right now, that the 2 signs are like 52 feet apart, and the third one now is going to be placed about 85 feet.
So it'll be further, they'll look like they're relatively evenly spaced apart, like they would be if we would have split those lots conventionally.
Correct.
So now we're down to, they're within hypothetically where our total square footage would be. They're actually below what we would allow 3 signs to be in there. One's bigger, 2 are smaller.
Correct.
But we have one more sign than what that frontage allows by ordinance. And we have someone else to speak on behalf.
But they are far enough apart.
I thought-
Correct. It
Ken,
seems like they're
We
evenly
have one more
spaced.
sign, but they are far enough apart
Ken,
to
I
meet
thought
the
you said the maximum allowable square footage for the proposed third sign, if it had been platted equal individual plots, was 125 square feet.
Approximately, yeah, if we're only using the frontage and not the side.
Say that again?
A third of the frontage would,
Well, this actually is a double frontage street, so that's based on just one frontage, not the other one. If we allow both frontages of over 400 square feet then, or lineal feet, and we divide it into the 3 signs, but
if we use Common Core math, then we can
Right,
get
okay.
to
Let
them.
me ask a question from this standpoint. Looking at this lot as it is, as an individual lot where they're proposing a new sign, disregarding the other 2 signs, is that sign with the square footage that they're requesting, is that fall within the guidelines of the sign code?
if I was using this lot, and it don't show up, just go back to the other one for a second, Ray.
You could just say the east, west, or center lot.
So if I was using this lot, because now it's got a frontage here and a frontage here, those 2 frontages together measure about 280 feet. Based on 280 feet, then they would be allowed a 300 square foot sign on that single parcel.
And
But-
they're requesting what?
But the review
300
group,
square
the
feet.
review group is saying, we don't want them
Right.
to combine those and use them. They could have 300 on 2 frontages.
Correct.
Yeah, the review group is saying, we don't want you to pirate one frontage and use it on the other frontage. Is
So
that
they could,
correct,
they
John?
could have another freestanding sign on that side frontage, though?
Yeah, they could put another freestanding sign over on there.
So how far back from the front? Yeah.
The
I mean, they're
C3
almost on the
zone
corner right
has
now.
a 0 setback.
Well, what he's saying is, if they were allowed to sign on 2 frontages, frontage 1 is US 212, frontage 2 is the side street.
Yep.
For that to qualify as the sign on the side street, how far off the corner does it have to be?
Well, typically, you got a 15-foot clear view triangle, and all it's going to be otherwise is 50 feet from the other sign.
So what Blake is saying is you could probably put it on the side street down further, it's just not as visible.
driveway that is interfering.
Right, it's not as visible from the highway there, or it's not on, it wouldn't be in line with the other ones, but legally you could put one there.
Right, and the thing that doesn't, to me, doesn't make any sense is if you have a corner lot like that, let's say that first building on the left was cut in half and you had a business on the south end, a different business on the north end, and you have those other businesses across the road, which you can have the 3, what you're saying, a totally different street, you're 50 feet off the corner, that business can't have a sign. I don't understand that. Which, that's what the ordinance supposedly says.
They can't have a sign from me. They can come and get a sign from you.
Okay.
So the question is that, let me go back again. Three buildings equally put on that lot, equal together. They could have 3 signs, all of it about 150 square feet apiece.
Something like that, yeah.
Now what we have is we've got 2 signs that are a total of 150 square feet, and the third sign wants 300 square feet. So if we had all 3 signs together, we're okay. But one sign's hogging all the square footage. So is it right to allow one sign to hog all the square footage? Is it right to add the third sign? Okay, and you're going to lose the open if you don't quickly say your name and say your
My name
piece.
is Joe Quinn. I work for Glacier Lakes Capital. We're the adjacent landowner to the north across the highway. Our stance on when we got the adjacent landowner notice is that, one, we want to be proactive in growth and improvement in the community. Our only issue with the sign is kind of alluding to what you just said, is that having some consistency in the area in terms of signage is being of similar size, just to be consistent and aesthetically pleasing. The design of the sign that we've seen is great, but like you said, it's much larger than the other 2 signs in the area. However, we implore that a little common sense from the board is used in granting the sign, just simply because there are 3 businesses, and we don't have a huge stake in the matter. However, the signage situation, the way it sits now, almost makes that property look offset, a little bit obscure. And I think that a third sign would balance out that property for the overall benefit of the current situation and future development in the east part of the 212 corridor.
If I can add too, that you guys can see the island there that's right next to the car. It was initially in the draw right there. The sign has already been plumbed for electrical. That was put in when the building was put up, when the structure was put up. So it was there originally. That was the initial thought. And in talking to Dr. Prouty, he says that, talking to the old mayor and some of the other people, that he thought that sign would be approved. Ken is saying that it wasn't at that time, but they said when you're ready to put that sign up, come back and talk to us. That's what we're doing today. So I mean, the island is curbing. It's curved all the way around and rocked and plumbed for electrical as well. So
Can you
it was
put that
part of the original plan?
Excuse me, can you put that sign back up? The 300 square foot sign. I'm just kind of throwing all sides of it out. We got 600 square feet available. We're using less than that. We're using one more sign than what's We're supposed to, but it balances out the building. It's a quirky setup, I get that. When I look at the sign, the Embrace Dentistry sign is 150 square feet or less to match the other signs. What you've done is you've put brick. Is there a marquee, or is that an electronic board of some sort
Well,
there?
it's an EMC, and we put that there. We're not sure if we'll do that, but we put it in there just to make sure that you guys saw everything that.
And Ken, when you calculate the square footage, you're calculating that every single brick in there is counted as a sign, even though it's really not a sign.
In this application, it does count the whole.
Yeah, so that's kind of part of this hogging the 300 square feet, is you look and go, there's really not 300 square feet of advertising there. There's 125 square feet of advertising and 175 square feet of aesthetics.
It's really nice.
Follow
rock,
me?
though.
What's that?
It's really nice rock.
I know, but what I'm trying to say is the rocks aren't selling anything. You know, but kind of, I'm just trying to do a little due diligence, and if we approve this, we say this is the thought process we went through. You know, John, your thoughts, you've been deeper into the signage than we have. This is interesting because it's a sign that's 300 square feet, but it's not 300 square feet of advertising. Like my sign in front of my building, I got 11 tenants on it, and it's advertising from top to bottom, except the very bottom that's metal.
So
But-
Ken, you're counting the brick portion as signage square footage because of the EMC in there? Otherwise, if
No,
it's just,
no, it'd be counted anyway. It's just more like a monument sign, and you take the entire square footage of it. If it
But-
doesn't have a pillar or post like this, then the entire thing gets counted.
And we went with this because we felt it looks better aesthetically than a pillar and a post. We thought that ties in with the building a lot better, so.
yeah,
I think that's a crazy way to look at it. In
Yeah,
other words,
because-
build a sloppy-looking pole, but get a great big advertising sign versus make an attractive sign with some brick and stone and mortar around it and the advertising a little
You know
smaller.
how much of a wall you could end up with if all I'm gonna do is count the signage and some of these things? This guy could build a 20-foot long sign and put 150 square foot of signage in there, and if we change the
Well,
ordinance to say
and
that.
and I understand somebody would probably try to do that, but the point is, make it look attractive, and that's what
Like you said,
we
we
need
can,
to do.
that's
That's
why
why we're here.
we can approve a sign rather
You know
than,
what
you
I'm
know.
saying?
I understand what you're saying.
It works against people if you make it attractive.
I would like to see you people have a nice sign. However, the sign code review board is looking at the placement and the size of signs, and we're trying to clean up the city a little bit, because quite frankly, there's a lot of junky signs in town, and there are a lot of signs that are too close together. And for my position, granting a variance from the 2 poles to 3 poles, I'm against that. Now, if you can partner with the other people on that lot and come up with 2 aesthetically pleasing signs, that would be great, but my position is I can't.
I guess my position would be that why are we being punished for other people who can't take care of their signs? Why is that? Why does what anybody else doing?
You're coming in here for a variance.
No, I agree. I'm just
And
saying, but you're
I'm not
taking into
willing to grant that
consideration.
variance.
Okay, and that's your opinion. I'm just saying, my stance is other people that you mentioned have signs that are not taken care of. That's not us, right? That's not what we're trying to do. I'm just making that point.
Ken, one more time. The Embrace Dentistry portion of that sign is how many square feet? Not counting the brick, just the top ID portion.
They don't have it, do you know?
What's that?
Just what the top part would be here?
Well, it's 180 by probably. It's got to be around 120 if that's.
So again,
If this is
similar-
15, I'm guessing
right,
that's
so-
about 10. It's probably about 150 square feet, the top portion of
So
that sign.
similar in size to the signs that are already on the property. Would you agree
Yes,
with that?
yeah, just
Okay.
it's the brick. Yeah,
Right, and I agree 100% with Dennis that, to me, it makes no sense to penalize someone coming in, applying for a sign permit, to require them to put up a less attractive sign, such as.
That's my whole point, Mark.
Exactly.
That's
Put
what.
up the sign on the right, you know, because it makes the code versus again, a more expensive sign, they're investing more money, it's gonna look nicer, and penalize them because now they're over the square footage.
You know, I think we look and go, in a perfect world, there's 600 square feet allowable on that frontage. And I think most of us agree 100% that it doesn't matter which of the 3 signs are using the square footage. That one is using a little more square footage than a third of 600, but we go back and say it looks nice. And I don't think anyone has a problem with that. I think the problem comes in of 2 signs versus 3.
The other thing about it is, though, that they really do only have the 2 signs because Dr. Dingser's sign is maybe not placed where it should be. I suppose you guys could go back and say, you know what, Dr. Dingser, you got to put that on that 14-foot lot.
In the middle of
Or
the driveway, yeah, I mean,
in the
I
middle of the
really
driveway.
can't.
That
yeah.
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I don't know, Dr. Prouty honestly said he does not know why it's broke. It was not a request of his to put it, to break
Yeah.
that property up, the way I'm looking at it here, the way it is. So, I mean, our
So
parking
you
lot.
really are talking two. Somebody else's sign is on your property, so.
Technically, yes, but we wouldn't take his sign down. No,
Right.
we would never ask that.
No, I understand that. Put it in the driveway.
To me,
That doesn't make sense.
to me, this is a situation, it's an odd situation with the frontage and everything else. But we have a separate business that's trying to put up an attractive-looking sign, and I don't know why we would not grant that.
Shane, I have a question for you. Can you administratively replat this lot? If we said, you know, in a perfect world, like I said, if this lot was broken down a third, based on the footprint of your building and just be straight, we wouldn't be here.
Right.
So Shane, can you look and go, would they be interested in replatting that lot so that somebody doesn't own half of the driveway and has no
I mean,
frontage
if you look at it, I don't
for?
even know why that main building is kind of sectioned off and has no parking. I don't know why it's like that. That's obviously.
Do you guys have covenants or an agreement on snow removal? Do you guys split it by
No,
building
we
size?
usually we just take care of all of it, I think. I mean, we used to do all the mowing,
He only owns
everything.
14 feet, he ain't got nothing to take care of.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot. He's got
You're the 14-footer?
No,
Oh.
that's Dr. Dingser, yeah. No, we usually just plow the whole thing just because we have a majority of it.
I mean, in the long run, they're better off to split this thing with covenants.
Yeah, I don't think we want to
So
get into
the
that.
administrative, I know, but the request would be, I mean, from our standpoint to you is, hey, guys, come back, fix your property, come back, make it easy for us.
My opinion is it probably could be administratively platted, or in this case, replatted, but that might be an option for them to consider. I don't know that.
I mean, I would say that if this is approved, it's, in the motion, it's, we request that you explore replatting this so we don't do this again.
I don't think, I
mean-
don't plan on putting another sign, I agree.
But the next, it's not you we're worried about, it's the
No.
owner 20 years from now when we're all gone, where somebody comes in, you know, we approve all this and everything goes well, and a windstorm comes and takes them down, it's a non-compliant sign, you're back here again.
What are you asking?
Or you get to sell the building to a new owner and say, oh, by the way, if that sign goes down, you can't put it back up.
What's going to get replatted, though? You're talking about the whole property? But see, now you've got more than one entity involved.
Right, that's what I'm saying, but
It'd be
but all
different
three.
if one person could.
All three
redo it all
entities are
themselves.
involved in this discussion, though. You know what I mean? I mean, I just think, like I said, they would explore it. A windstorm comes up, all 3 guys are gonna be sitting in front of us trying to get their signs put back up.
Right.
And we're not gonna put 3 signs up if 3 owners with no signs are sitting there. I can guarantee you that. We'd tell you to figure it out. So anyway, fellas. Anyone else to speak in the open? Seeing none, I'll close the open, ask for a motion in a second for discussion.
I would make a motion to accept that sign with your caveat in there to have them explore the platting of it. So it makes sense that you have 2 and Dr. Dingser's property would have 1.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I have a second motion by Mr. Albertson, second by Mr. Dolly. Discussion. I'll start. I'll say that I think we've said everything there is. There's available 600 square feet in a perfect world with 2 signs. They have less than 600 square feet, but they want 3 signs. One of those signs having greater than 1/3 of the 600 square feet. You guys okay with that? You know, that's what we're gonna vote on is, are we, you know, to me, is we lay this out, and if it was platted, there's a way to plat it so everybody gets a sign and everybody has the amount of frontage that they want, and with the exception of one sign would probably have a little more square footage, but it's not advertising square footage.
And Dan, your motion was to explore.
Correct.
Would it be reasonable to make that a requirement? Or-
I think we're asking some people who aren't here to do things.
After you
there.
grant them the third sign, they don't have to explore anything.
I do have one question.
There would be non-compliant signs.
And this is just for clarity, because I think you've talked about a lot of different things here. Say we do administratively plat it, what is the maximum signage per lot that's allowed going forward, if that's what happens?
We wouldn't adjust the ordinance on that. We'd go by the ordinance as to what that sign code allows.
One thing, I mean, I'm neutral, obviously, but what I'm worried about is if one sign dominates the other two, and after you've administratively platted it, all of a sudden we're gonna have 3 massive signs out there. So I'm just asking a question.
If someone came in, an existing sign came in and said, I want more signage, they can put up to, what do we say, 200 square feet of advertising on a sign
It's
base,
300 based on
third of the
frontage
lots.
of the lot, yeah.
Of
Well,
a third of that
If it
lot.
gets split down to, then it changes.
Their signage of their maximum square footages go down with the lot size, the lot frontage.
Correct.
So that, the question would be, it'd be pretty hard to dominate when you have.
Right, but I mean, I think that all 3 parties should know what their maximum signage is before they go down the path of an administrative plat, because it may in the end not be what they each want.
Because how it sits today is if there's a 300 square foot sign and a 78 and an 80, and they're on that frontage, and we get a tornado comes through East 212, and they go down, they'll all be back here before us trying to get.
I would say,
One of them would be okay.
yeah, and I would say, if you look at how it's set up on here, is that Dr. Prouty owns the first building here, which would be on the far left, and then his brothers with him own the middle building as well, and combined, they dominate the frontage. That could be why it was broken down like that, so that they were in control of that signage. So there is no third party that's going to, I mean, Dr. Dingser right now has no, given the way the property lines are and what he purchased, he couldn't come in and say that he wanted a sign.
No,
So
he-
that's an unreasonable situation, because it can't happen as it sits today.
Right.
But if it was a third and a third and a third, yeah, then I would agree with you, yeah.
And we look into the future as to when these properties change hands 15, 20 years. And like I said, windstorm goes down, Dr. Dinser doesn't have a sign to put up. He's got to barter with the neighbor to see if he could put a sign on the neighbor's property.
As it exists.
Yeah, as it sits today, correct.
And if his is the only sign damaged, car comes off Highway 212 tonight and takes out his sign, he comes back in here, we're going to look and go, we've already got
Right.
more square
Yeah,
footage.
I'd like to
And
say we'd be good neighbors. I mean, that's how you handle things, but.
we've had
but
people
yeah.
come in who granted an easement to their neighbor because it was his best friend until he sold the house. Now he hates his neighbor and he wants
Right.
the easement withdrawn.
I get
That's
it.
the
I get
kind
it.
of, that's the devil's advocate
Well, I
that
mean,
we
it's
kind of
predicting the
play.
future either way, right? Between a tornado or a car or whatever. I mean, for all we know, this thing could stay here long after we're gone too, you know, so.
I'd like to call a question.
As is, you just
Call
want
a-
to,
call a vote.
just what we're thinking. Close it and vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
6 yea, 1 nay. Roll call?
Arnold,
Yes.
Dolly,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Berger, Stoneberger, no, Stein,
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Mr. Albertson,
Yes.
6 yes, 1 no. Vote
No.
passes.
as proposed for 300 square feet.
300 square feet with that we request they explore replatting that lot to make these signs more compliant.
Thank you.
Any old business? Any old business, Ken?
Nope, we're done.
New business? Or, I'm sorry, motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. Stein, second by Mr. Schoenberger. All in favor, say aye. Opposed?
Nobody
Motion
leave till you
carries.
sign this.